Hello everybody, this is Russell. I hope you're all doing really well. This video is about writing introductions and conclusions. So we will look at a few things. We will look at the assessment rubric. We will look at example paragraphs for the introduction and conclusion. And we will look at thesis statements, what makes a good thesis statement. And we will also look briefly at the structure of the whole essay and how we make the whole essay coherent. So let's begin. Let's take a quick look at the assessment criteria. So there are 3 points available for clearly establishing the context, the background to the essay. So here you should think about providing enough context, providing enough information so that a generally educated reader can understand the essay. So here, for example, if you're writing about a Korean law, something very specific like that, you should provide enough information, enough explanation for a general reader, not just a Korean reader, to understand the topic. So it may be necessary to give definitions of words as part of this context, or enough historical, social, contextual background. 3 points are available for the background. So this simply means that if you write 2 sentences, you cannot possibly score 3 points. So you are welcome to write more than 3 sentences. It's 3 or more sentences, but 3 is the minimum number. So think about providing enough context for a generally educated person to understand the specific issues and specific topic of the essay. The second thing you need to do is to convince the reader of the importance of your topic. Remember, this is a persuasive essay, so the first thing you need to persuade the reader about is the importance of your topic. So perhaps you think about it this way: people are very busy. We don't have much time in modern society. So why should I pay attention to your essay? Show me that it's important. Tell me why I should care about your topic. So you may remember from one of the essay planning documents, there was a question, why should I care? So this is your chance to answer that question. Why should I care? Why is your topic important? Persuade me about that first. And then finally, you have a thesis statement. The thesis statement is the essay argument, the essay viewpoint, and this should be both narrow or specific and clear. So we will look at this in more detail later on. Right, so we have an example introduction paragraph here. The background is in red, the importance of the topic is in black, and the narrow but clear thesis statement is in blue. So I'm not going to read the whole thing out. If you look at the background information, you can see that it takes a very broad perspective, a very wide perspective, a very general perspective. It isn't necessary to be as broad as this. However, it is important to remember that the most general information should be at the start of the essay. The importance of the topic. So let's take a look at the sentence I wrote here, and specifically the second part of the sentence. I said, the damage caused by modern intensive animal farming is as important as any other social or moral issue. Now, I believe I support this argument in the essay. I provide quite a lot of evidence that the problems relating to livestock farming, to agricultural production of meat, do cause huge problems for global society. So I think this statement is very realistic when I say it is as important as any other social or moral issue. So it's important here to be realistic. So if you, for example, are doing the topic of school uniforms and you write the issue of whether high school students should wear school uniforms is as important as any other social issue, then clearly this is just nonsense. It's totally unrealistic. So the second thing to remember here is that it should be realistic. Okay, so persuade your reader about why they should care about this topic, but do it in a realistic and sensible way. The final part is the thesis statement. So the thesis statement is the writer's viewpoint, and this should be narrow or specific and clear. So the first part of the statement is clear. This essay argues that it is time for the human species to drastically reduce our meat consumption. That is the clear part, and then the second part provides specific details. So let's look at this in a little bit more detail. So writing good thesis statements. So first of all, the thesis statement is the argument, the opinion, or the viewpoint of the essay. And in any essay or research paper, this is really the most important sentence. It is even more important in a persuasive essay, because remember that in a persuasive essay, your aim, your goal, is to convince me, to persuade me to agree with this particular statement. So if this particular statement is not clear, then the essay as a whole doesn't really succeed. So one thing to notice is that you should avoid personal language. So this was in the 7 stages to improving your academic writing video. But you should avoid saying I think. You should avoid saying my opinion is, my view is. It's much better to write something like the essay argues, the essay claims. So it is important to present the argument in a more objective way, in a less personal way. Okay, so let's look at what we mean by clear and specific. So we have 2 points available on the rubric. One is for a clear thesis statement, and the second is for a specific thesis statement. So the 3 example sentences here hopefully show you what I mean by clear and specific. So let's take a look at the first one. Meat consumption needs to be reduced. So hopefully you can see that that's very clear. It isn't difficult to understand the opinion or the viewpoint there. However, it's not specific. No specific detail has been included. So I would just give you 1 point here. This type of statement will score 1 out of 2 in the assessment. This one also lacks specific detail. So the writer says meat consumption needs to be reduced for 3 main reasons. And the obvious question here is, what are the 3 main reasons? So this statement also is very non-specific. We don't know what the 3 reasons are. So a full and complete thesis statement, or a clear and specific, clear and narrow thesis statement will provide details of the three supporting arguments. So we would say meat consumption needs to be reduced. That is the clear part. Why? To tackle the problems of climate change, number one. To feed millions of malnourished, starving human beings, number two. And to reduce the needless suffering and cruelty experienced by the animals themselves. So you can see that we have explained or elaborated the three main reasons. You will see later when I show you the essay again that these are the topics of the three main body paragraphs. So it's also important for the coherence or the unity of the essay overall. So let's move on and look at the conclusion. So really the conclusion doesn't do anything new. There is no new information in the conclusion. So we re-establish the importance of the topic. So this is highlighted in red here. The word imperative means important. We synthesize and review the main points. And we restate, but do not repeat the thesis statement. So I will talk a little bit about the synthesis of the main points later on, but just notice here that we're essentially paraphrasing the introduction, except for the background information, without the background information. And here is the assessment rubric for the conclusion. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the similarities between the thesis statements in the introduction and conclusion. So just like the topic sentence and unity sentences in each paragraph, the thesis statements in the introduction and conclusion act like the bread in the sandwich. They hold the contents of the essay together. So the thesis statement should be reformulated or paraphrased in the conclusion, and this is an essential part of what we call foregrounding the essay structure. So I think I did talk about this briefly in a previous video, but the most important thing in any academic discourse, any academic task that you're doing is to foreground the structure. So really what you're doing in the persuasive essay is telling the reader the argument clearly and specifically, and then repeating that argument throughout the essay, and then re-emphasizing it in the conclusion. And this is what we call cohesiveness or unity, or coherence is actually a better word than cohesiveness. This should really say coherence. So we're talking about coherence, unity, completeness, these types of things. Okay, so here is a very brief summary of the essay structure. We've got the background, importance, thesis statements, 3 paragraphs with the structure, topic, evidence, analysis, and unity, and then again the importance of the topic, again the thesis statement, and again the synthesis. So the point of this PowerPoint is really that here you have the background information, and then the rest of the burger, the content of the paragraph, is the same in the conclusion. We simply did not include the background information again. So in a way, it's a mirroring effect. In a way, it's another bookend effect. Okay, so I want to show you briefly the example essay that I did, because I think it will help you if we just see the text one more time. So let's go into the model essays, and we're going to look at my essay and the one with structure highlighted. So I'm just going to highlight some sentences in the essay. So this is the thesis statement here. And you notice that these comments actually tell you what I'm saying now. So let's highlight the thesis statement in red. Let's highlight the first topic sentence in red. And the unity sentence here. And again, the topic and unity sentences in this paragraph. This is the coherence effect, or the unity in the essay as a whole. So these different parts of the essay that I'm highlighting should be very coherent. They should support each other, reinforce each other, maybe even mutually reinforce each other, and this part of the essay here. So these sentences, the relationship between these sentences, how closely they are integrated, how strongly they support each other, is the overall effect, is the overall impact of the essay. One thing I want to say very quickly is about the unity sentences. So if you look at the unity sentences in the essay, so we're talking about the final or concluding sentences of each paragraph. This is how we do the synthesis in the conclusion. So I've marked the synthesis S, and the comment here says, synthesize the main arguments of the essay. Check the last sentences in main body 2, main body 3, and main body 4. So we already talked about how the thesis statement and the statement of importance occur in both the introduction and conclusion. We also talked in a previous video about how the topic sentences should support the thesis statement. The final thing you should consider is how the unity sentences of each paragraph, so we're talking about the final sentence here, the final sentence here, and the final sentence here, how these sentences can be synthesized to create the synthesis section of your paragraph. Admittedly, it's very similar to the thesis statement, but I think when you write the synthesis section of the conclusion, I would check the unity sentences in paragraph 2, paragraph 3, and paragraph 4, and make sure there is a very close relationship between them, a very strong relationship between them. They support each other, they reinforce each other, they give the overall essay coherence, they give unity to the whole essay, and they strengthen the whole essay as a result. So this is what I mean when I say foregrounding the structure. So here, in a persuasive essay, foregrounding the structure means presenting a single argument clearly, directly, with statements that support it throughout the essay. So please pay particular attention to this synthesis section and the unity sentences that I just indicated. Okay, thanks very much everybody. Hope you're all doing well, and see you soon.